Welcome to San Diego Integral, June 13th, 2026. Our topic today, the Alchemy of Wonder, Disrupting Our Habitual Lens, presented by Veronica Olalla Love.
So, welcome to San Diego Integral. I'm Tom Habib, and I'm a member of San Diego Integral's leadership team. Our guest today is Veronica Olalla Love. I love her name. And our, and the topic will be the alchemy of wonder, disrupting our habitual lenses. You can stay connected to San Diego Integral on Meetup and on Facebook. Join one of those groups, and that way you'll be automatically notified when we have a new event at it. You can also contact somebody in the leadership team if you ever have comments or questions about these events. There's more information about San Diego Integral on Facebook and our website. Our regular meeting is held every Saturday, second Saturday of every month at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So Jerry Golick is going to introduce our esteemed speaker.
Okay, hi everybody. So our presenter today is Veronica Olalla Love, and she is the CEO and senior facilitator of Newfield Network, which is a globally recognized coach training organization. And as a primary architect of Newfield's programs, she's trained thousands of people globally, including leaders from such organizations as NASA, Google, and many Fortune 500 companies. With her many years of experience in transformational learning, together with her work as an artist and an acupuncturist, Veronica brings a unique and powerful presence to her work, merging joy, play, somatic depth, and creative inquiry into a shared transformational process. And I had the privilege of attending a short workshop that Veronica led at the ICON conference in Denver just a few weeks ago. And I came away really touched and moved, impressed, and grateful to meet another amazing teacher and another amazing human being in the world, but also just a little bit mystified. And but when I was reading Veronica's bio, it said she is, quote, renowned for her depth of presence and recognized for her artistry of attunement. And my reaction was, yeah, that was happening. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Veronica has for us today. And I'd like to offer a warm San Diego Integral welcome to our guest, Veronica Olalla Love.
Thank you so much, Jerry, and thank you to San Diego Integral. It's such a privilege to be here. I'm delighted to be with all of you. And I'm going to invite us just to take a moment to arrive together. So just get settled in your seat. Just take a moment to take inventory. How are you in this moment? Take a moment to notice your own attention. What has your attention? And then when you're ready, just inviting us into a collective breath, recognizing that we're co-creating a shared space, shared dialogue and exploration, a place for us to explore and learn together. It's taking a moment to arrive into your own heart and experience the goodness that resides in your heart. And then take a moment to just notice the hearts that are here. Just experiencing the collective rhythm and pulse. When you're ready, you can take another breath. And then do a little shimmy, a little wiggle, a little stretch, whenever you need to just really be here, bring in your full presence so that we can be in dialogue together as a collective. Before I continue, I just want to check in. Can everyone hear me okay? Is the audio volume good? Okay, fantastic. Wonderful. So as was mentioned earlier, today's topic is the alchemy of wonder and disrupting our habituated lens. So we can recognize that we have an inheritance of modernity. We find ourselves in a particular moment in history. And so we have over 500 years of modernity that we have all inherited this dominant or prevalent worldview. And there are many facets or factors that coalesce to bring forth this worldview of modernity. But some of the essential ones that we can look at is this factor or this component of the hyper-rational. And so we have this hyper-rational aspect. We also have the hyper-efficient. How do we do it faster and better and even faster? So we find ourselves on this acceleration of acceleration. And then we also have this hyper-individualism, this deeply rooted shared sense for so many of being encapsulated and being me. I am myself over here and you are over there. So we have this, this narrative and this worldview that really anchors in that we are individuals, and not only individuals, but we are separate. We are separate. And so we have these three different factors that come into play that coalesce. And often what we find with the hyper-individualism, the hyper-rationalism, all of these aspects is that we find, and we've heard this so many times, I think, because it is so prevalent, that we enter into these meaning-making crises, and we experience often a deep sense of alienation, of apathy, loneliness, right? We have the epidemic of loneliness, the sense of being disconnected or estranged in this world. And so through all of these different factors that are coming forth, that are in our cultural milieu, what happens is that we end up being part of a disenchanted world. We have a sense of the fragmentation. I'm a separate self, but also my own being is fragmented. And also then this sense of really that we do all of this intensification of hyper, where it begins to take us very often is because has been a collective yearning for predictability and control. The sense of how do we predict what is up and coming? How do we predict this future? And how do we control it? So coming from the sense of through these hyper-rationalism, hyper-individualism, all the hypers that I've mentioned, how do we end up really controlling and predicting what is happening? And so it could be a very good intention to create a sense of perhaps safety for us. We find that we have come to such the extreme of these factors that we end up in a disenchanted world where there's a sense of boredom, there's a sense of apathy, jadedness. And what happens then is that we're robbed of the sacred. That mystery, right, somehow falls flat. There's a lack of aliveness and vividness. And so we find ourselves in this collective disenchanted world. And I'd love to hear from some of you, maybe a sentence or two, about your own experience of this time of modernity where we find ourselves in this place, regardless of our, where we find ourselves in our stage of development or so forth. We find that modernity as a prevalent worldview impacts all of us in some way. And so I'd love to hear a sentence or two just about when you connect with your own self in your moments of feeling fragmented or a sense of separation or loneliness, or perhaps just a sense of jadedness. What arises in your experience? And you're welcome to raise your hand and weave together our voices. I'd love for this to be an interactive time together rather than just a monologue. So I'd love to hear from some of you. What's your connection with this disenchanted aspect? Tom, did you want to share? Or are you waving? Or both?
I wanted to say something that where I feel the connection, like when I'm outside in my garden playing in the dirt, as my wife says, um, I become really aware that I'm very much a part of this earth as all the plants and the bugs and the birds around me.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm just aware I'm like, you know, a piece of fruit growing on the orange tree.
Yeah,
But it's that feeling of connection that uh, when I'm outside, I really get it then.
great. And I'm wondering, what's your experience of when you're feeling disconnected?
Usually feeling lonely, um, or frustrated uh, when I lose the connection.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, Shannon.
Um, Literally, the leaf blower just walked into the front yard. So I hope you guys can't hear it, but it is distracting me a little bit. He'll be here for a few minutes. What I wanted to share is feeling the disenchanted world has been a lifelong experience for me as I'm level 1 autism Asperger's. So I've experienced the sense of disenchantment and not belonging or disconnect for a lifetime. So I kind of always searching for a way to mend some of that. I don't know what just happened.
We had to mute someone.
But I lost the visual of Victoria. Is she gone?
No, we're still here.
Veronica, I mean, Veronica, sorry.
That's
Victoria
okay.
is my neighbor. Was my neighbor. Anyway, that's all. I just was coming in today to any kind of tools that I can find to help me.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you
Anything
so
new?
much.
I know it's been a lot of years, but anything that I can find to help me. Because I think it's well, it's really deep and ingrained in the lifetime experience versus like maybe having a different experience of belonging at one time and feeling that way and then something happening and not. It's just sort of always been that way. So
Yeah.
that's what thank you for letting me share.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing in your voice. Yeah, it's as we listen to each other speak, I invite you to be present and really take in each person who is speaking, to really receive their words, because there's so much wisdom in this collective. And as we hear each other, we can learn so much from each other that perhaps the impact of modernity on some is moments of isolation or disconnection or frustration. And for others, perhaps it's intense for a particular phase of life. Or, right, we have a dominant kind of gestalt sense of something, a sense of isolation or separation for a long time. Yeah, Jerry.
Yeah, something that came up for me when you were speaking of that was just that, like in our current, like modern culture now, it's the like the algorithms are like hijacking our attention so much, and I try to pay attention to my diet, but it's so easy to get sucked into the rage baiting and the whatever it is. Like they're just trying to tell us anything to get our attention and get the adrenaline pumping, and then when I'm not getting that content, I think it's like that's like the high, and then the adrenaline drops, and then now I feel like dull or disconnected or like nothing's happening or bored or something. And even though I know that if I turn my attention in other directions, there's a lot of, richness available. It's just so, easy to get hijacked by that and experience the ups and downs, the adrenaline and the crash.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I think
good.
just distraction is another facet that we're finding right in the currently where we're just bombarded with so much distraction, and noticing what that does to amplify fragmentation, what that does to pull us in multiple directions at once. Yeah. Thank you, Jerry. Yeah, Jess or Jessie.
I notice it more in comparison that when I'm in a Chicano neighborhood, when I'm in America or on the streets of India, I don't feel lonely. And then when I'm back in Australia, where everybody's in their own little houses, uh, loneliness, I think I feel alive on the street, and there isn't that aliveness on the street. So I miss street aliveness. It makes me feel connected and happy. And yeah, so I think that's modernity.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. So I wanted to ensure that we heard from our collective, our group, because I didn't want this to remain simply as like a theoretical thing, right? But really for us to like touch into the lived experience that we're sharing, which is so much isolation and so much fragmentation. And when we contact that pain, when we contact that suffering, I think it can wake us up. It can stir us to wake up, to have a certain kind of conversation that acknowledges these aspects of being alive in today's world. And I'm seeing, Kabir, you have your mic unmuted. Did you want to speak?
I thought I might. There were pieces I didn't hear just now, so I thought I could reflect.
Please.
And I really appreciate your holding us to the account of what's the suffering here. And I've come through some hospitalizations recently, and I'm a quadriplegic, so systemically I'm, travel less and interface less socially. And I also have the blessing of a really grounded meditation practice, which, is a nice place to live. But I noticed, like in a dark corner of the ER for 12 hours, or, in some other circumstance, when that sense of, oh, or even right now in my body, there's some pain that feels like separation, like, oh, this is not the bliss of divine wholeness. This is, you know, and or there's like, oh, this is not the abundance of social interaction, or this is not me with access to help when I feel vulnerable. These kinds of qualities that are real contact places, I notice. What's come up for me more recently is like, whose suffering is this that I'm feeling right now? And I can't definitely say that it belongs to some separate, isolated thing called Kabir, but I can certainly feel it. I can certainly have compassion for it. I can certainly wonder, is it Jerry's? Like, or then he look, this pain I'm feeling is Jerry's pain that he doesn't have to feel, or maybe this whole experience is the experience of the whole world together. This is maybe what the bliss is right now, and just living into that, like letting that evoke compassion and evoke remembering others who are maybe in a less fortunate place. I was particularly moved, Shannon, when you spoke. I just have so touched by the whole realization of neurodivergence, that there's a trillion ways to be an ordinary human. And there's a bell curve, and like how we talk about it, and how we think about it, and how we feel about it. communicate those things. So just like, yeah, there's a lot of vulnerability to compassion that comes up that I wanted to name.
Yeah, thank you so much. And as I listen to you speak, Kabir, there's so much that arises in me. But one of them is what a gorgeous articulation of the experience of recognizing how permeable we are as humans and beginning to question or really explore the sense of who am I? Where do I end? Where do I begin? And how do I identify as self? And where is the self, right? So these beautiful, big existential questions can emerge as we practice being with all the experience and the messiness of being human, and how real it is that we can have these, right, ecstatic states of bliss and divine, like, wow moments. And we can have these deep shared moments of profound empathy and compassion. And what is it like to truly be present with the pain and suffering that we perceive someone is someone else's or is a collective pain? And how do we hold that kind of wide range of being alive together? And so I think as we explore the inheritance of modernity and begin to question its fundamental assumptions and begin to create new possibilities from there, I think it's so important that we recognize that the coming from, that living history. So thank you so much for your words, Kabir. Yeah. Taylor, and then we'll continue.
Hello. I was thinking about the social media and even the simple like camera and video. And I made a decision over 10 years ago not to use social media. And I feel it's extremely beneficial for even like the substance matter of my brain. But I'll say that sometimes when I'm just, around other people, friends or family, and I just see them, scrolling on their phone, or I know people are spending hours on their phones, and I choose not to. And at times I wonder, well, maybe I should, stay in contact. But so that's definitely an area of modernity that the further I go from social media, and even pictures and video like that, like needing to take a picture or video of everything. Um, Sometimes the further I go, I feel a little bit more separated from the whole of society because I think most people do that, the videos and the pictures of everything, and I would rather take it in. But it does leave me feeling separated sometimes. And I think you mentioned the word fractured, and that's actually something I don't want to have, is like a fracture and like here's my life and then here's my internet life, and I don't want to have that. So
Yeah, Taylor, I appreciate what you're bringing to the conversation. One of the things I listen that shows up for me in your speaking is a sense of quality. What is the quality of my engagement? What is the quality of my relationship? Right? And is it these bite-sized, quick, right, moments, or is it something else that I value and that I cherish and that I care about and want to cultivate in life? Or what is the combination, right? So thank you so much, Taylor, for bringing that here with us, because I think that's something that's really quite central to today's conversation. All these pieces that we're weaving together really feed into that which we'll be exploring today. So when we are dissatisfied with reality, right? When we're dissatisfied with it, that's a little bit about where I want to go to today. Is I wanted to present a model that is at the foundation of the Newfield network. It's a core model that we teach, and I think it's quite simple. It's not like, whoo, so complex on a mental level. However, working with it for over 2 decades, I find that there is such depth with revisiting this model over and over again because it allows for so much. So here we have our 3 little circles. This is called the OR model. And so when we have something that we can put a word on, which is reality or results, and we're dissatisfied with them, notice that most of us, many of us in today's world, what do we do when we don't like the results? What is like the default automatic? We don't like our results. What do we do?
Avoid.
We can avoid, yeah. That's a good tactic. So most of us, the default mode that we go into is that we actually change our actions. Yeah. So based on this inheritance of modernity, when we don't like our reality, whatever that aspect of reality is, most of us will quickly turn our attention to say, oh, I have to do something. I have to do more. Yeah. I have to do it faster. I have to do it better. And while doing, engaging in action and a shift in our action can generate a new result or a different reality, it's often within certain parameters, within a limited range, right? So often what happens is that we don't like our reality, so we change our results. Okay, I'll work twice as hard. I'll work 2 more hours, right? And so we do this, but then we recognize that the reality doesn't change that much. And so we find ourselves in this cycle or this loop that's quite repetitive and limited, right? I don't like it. I'm dissatisfied with it. And then we try, we do more, and then we fall back and we just still don't like it. And so this kind of thing just repeats and repeats, and we get caught in a particular dynamic. So the OR model presents another possibility. Rather than being stuck in more of the same, the OR model invites us to actually take a look at our observer. It invites us to take a look at how we look, to notice how we notice. It's an invitation for us to zoom out and to actually see what is the lens, what is the epistemic lens that we're engaging with, that we're actually viewing reality through. So what we find is that when we bring our attention and our awareness to the observer, suddenly new possibilities emerge. New ideas, new ways, yeah, things that we just didn't see before. It often feels like we're, what? Like a kind of like a rabbit that jumps out of a magic hat, like, I didn't see that happen, right? So a really kind of concrete way that we can see this is right now you're looking with your 2 eyes at a particular slice of your room, right? So maybe you're north facing, east facing, northwest, whatever slice of the room you're looking at. But notice that there's actually a whole room behind you, right? At least a wall or something, open space. There's another view if you looked behind you, and there's another view if you look to your right or your left. So our view, right, the observer, is a partial view. And so what happens is that we are seeing life in a particular way, given the observer that we are. So given the observer that you are, you're seeing this side of the room. It doesn't mean the other side of the room doesn't exist. It's just that you have your attention and awareness on that particular perspective. So when we take a look at the observer that we are, it can impact the way we engage and interact in the world, and it impacts the reality. And we can really say that these 3 bubbles here are co-arising, right? It kind of shows a linear arrow, but life is, like I said before, messy. So it's right? But the observer we are, our epistemic lens, how we see, how we perceive, all of that is intimately woven into the fabric of how we experience reality, of what reality we see. Okay, with me so far? Yes? Okay, awesome. So we can say, well, if the observer impacts reality, and then what constitutes the observer? So at Newfield, we look at the observer and we talk about the dynamic coherency, because the observer is not a static observer, but rather the observer itself changes and shifts and is altered, right, in many, many ways. And so it's comprised by many factors that come together. So the observer is anchored, we can say there's a wholeness. Yeah? When we connect deeply within to the depth of who we are, there's a wholeness there. There's that depth dimension of being whole at the core. And then another aspect of this observer is that there's body. So it's not just that we have an epistemic lens and this is like a bodiless head that just kind of like sees things. It's not just purely cognitive. It's not just an intellectual function, how we observe the world, but rather the observer is deeply embodied, right? We see the world, we experience the world through our senses, through our sensory portals, through our skin, right? Through being in flesh and bone and blood. All of that plays into how we experience the world. So for example, if our body was different, say we had a dog's snout, we'd be able to smell things we can't smell. If we had elephant ears, right, we would hear things we don't hear. If we had eyes like a fly, right, our visual reality would be quite different. So we are, right, in a particular biology, and that biology gives rise to particular realities. So our body, our soma, yeah, that impacts how we see, experience, engage with, co-create reality. And then we have here, you can take a look, that we also have emotions and moods. So when you are really in a place of deep and profound grief, life shows up in a certain way. Or when you're in a place of resignation, right? When we're in a mood of resignation, there's no possibilities. The world just seems like, ugh, right? You can kind of think of that Eeyore kind of effect. And when we're in a mood of, let's say we're hopelessly in love, yeah? I just watched Hadestown at the theater, and it's all about right, romance and this deep love. And when you're in love, right, there can be this kind of rosy lens, like life is great. It's walking on air feeling, smelling the roses. So different realities arise based on our moods and our emotions. And then we can look at language. Right? Language isn't simply descriptive. It doesn't just describe an external reality that is fixed and out there, but rather language is a generative capacity. We co-create through language, right? If I say, right, this very meeting here, San Diego Integral, right, today, we said, yes, there was an offer, a linguistic offer. Would you like to join us today, Saturday at 4? And right, verbally, we said, yes, I'll be there, click. Right? So language, and now we're here having this conversation. If there was no language, that wouldn't have been possible. So language is part of this observer. So when we look at language, what are the speech acts we're engaging with? What are the historical narratives, the discourses, the stories that we're a part of? And how does that shape how I see life? If I'm in a doomsday story, right? What world shows up? AI, doom, AI, the savior of the world, right? Like different stories, different worlds. What realities are we in? Then we can continue to look at another aspect, and I'm going through these fairly quickly. We can spend years in any of these circles. It's just to give you an overview. There's no test at the end. You don't have to memorize anything. You don't have to like fully get it. You can just let it wash over you and enjoy. So here we are, culture, right? What cultures are we a part of? We all live in, right? What is our family culture? What is our organizational culture, etc.? Our nation. How many cultures are we part of? Our religious culture, spiritual culture, our theoretical culture, all sorts of cultures. So these all impact our observer that we are. And then ecosystems, the internal landscape and the external landscape. I'll just quickly name that one. Developmental aspect, which here people are much more in the know about that circle. And then we have history. So all of these come together and impact how you are as a unique observer. So this impacts how you are as a unique observer, but it also impacts the collective observer. We could use the same model to look at the collective. So both individual and collective. So when we put the aura model and the dynamic coherency together, it looks like this. We have this recognition that the observer, not as a passive spectator, but rather as something that interprets and engages with and co-creates reality with all of these different components, engages and interacts with the world, has different practices, and then pop, realities show up. Okay, I've said a mouthful. I'm going to pause there to see if there's any questions before we continue. And I promise the rest is much less modelly. I just wanted to give you kind of a framing for where we're going today. Any comments, wonderments, ponderings, and such before I continue? And if not, that's perfectly fine, and I can keep going.
I loved it, Veronica. And
Say again, Kabir.
I said I loved it. I really appreciate it. And I was curious, and I don't want to take us down a rabbit hole, but so if you've got something to say, then wonderful. Otherwise, never mind. I noticed that our friends at Pacific Integral also have wholeness in the middle and 7 facets around an awakened wholeness, which we might also call dynamic constellated observer or something. And I was just wondering if you had enough contact with that to have a sense of synergies or differences or distinctions there.
Thank you for the question. I don't know the model that they're using now. When I went through GTC, they didn't have that model. So I can't speak to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Right.
It's cool to see these things emerging
Yeah,
in the
absolutely.
field right now in these kind of rhymes.
Yeah. Thank you, Kabir. So when we look at alchemy, we're looking at this capacity for transmutation, this capacity, right, for changing something into something else. How do we transmute? And so we can look at talking about this inheritance of our habituated lens in terms of collectively has been informed by the hypers that I mentioned before, hyper individualism, hyper rationalism, all of that. And so we're looking at, someone mentioned earlier, right? Well, then like, how do I be in relation? What possibilities are there? So when we explore that observer and different facets of the observer, suddenly new possibilities arise, as I mentioned before, and it becomes an alchemical process in the sense that our previous observer and dynamic coherency can continue to evolve and unfold in new ways. Donna Haraway, she is an interdisciplinary scholar, and she has this wonderful term, which is sympoiesis, which I love to mention because it means creating with, right? And recognizing that we are not individuals, right? In terms of just isolated individuals, but rather that we're engaging with and we're mutually creating something, right? But we're in relationship. Like I'm in relationship to all of you. We're having this conversation, right? The things that you said were being woven in. And so we're in this dance together. And so when we look at the world similarly, right? What is that alchemical process that we're engaging with together? So I wanted to invite us to simply drop in. I'll be sharing some facts that I learned. I will claim from the get-go I'm not a scientist, but I did learn about these things. So I'm just going to have us drop in. So just take a moment again to just anchor in your body. Take a moment to just land and enjoy your breathing. And I'm just going to share some facts about this thing called our universe that we're in. So as you receive my speaking, allow yourself to see if you can grok what I am saying. The first part is that the planet that we are all on, the diameter of it is approximately 7,900 miles. Just allow your whole being to grok a diameter of 7,900 miles, holding every human, the cities, all of it. And when you're ready, you can take a breath. And now just grok that our solar system, if we just include up to the planets, the 8 planets, is approximately 5.6 billion miles. I'll say it again, 5.6 billion miles. And the sun contains about 99.8 of all the matter in our entire solar system. So notice the impact this has in your whole being, like really soak it in. Okay, the next thing, the galaxy, the Milky Way. The diameter is approximately 100,000 light years. 100,000 light years. Okay, so our entire solar system is just one microscopic speck, yeah, in the suburbs of these massive swirling pinwheels of 100 to 400 billion other stars. The whole system revolves around a supermassive black hole at the core. Okay, we're jumping out even further than that. The local neighborhood, the diameter is approximately 10 million light years. Because galaxies, they don't hang out alone, they hang out in clusters. And so our cluster, our neighborhood, has 125 about galaxies. Okay. We zoom out again. The supercluster, the diameter is 520 million light years. And if we zoom out again, the diameter of the observable universe, this is the last one, is approximately 93 billion light years. Okay, so at this ultimate scale, all 100,000 galaxies shrink into this glowing cosmic web of at least several hundred billion galaxies separated by immense empty voids. So take a moment to just sense into what was evoked as you listen to the magnitude and the vastness of our cosmic location. I'd love to hear again a word or two. And also for those of you who don't want to verbally speak, you're welcome to share on chat. What was evoked as we hear the magnitude of this vastness?
One of the things that was evoked in counterpoint was the warmth that there are more trees here on Earth than planets and stars in our Milky Way. That felt like a nice warm blanket in the midst of this vast, expansive space.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kabir. Brian.
Well, my first thought was, as you zoomed further and further out, was we're going back in time. What we see from 100,000 light years away was what happened 100,000 light years ago. So that was another dimension of, I guess, awe and wonder.
Yes, beautiful, Brian. I'm so glad you're sharing that. Yeah. So we get this sense of the vastness within which we reside as human beings. And just for fun, to contrast that with recognizing modernity's yearning for predictability and control. So just notice when you're talking, Brian, about, history and the time and going back and all of that, and we think of the enormity, just like the baffling, right, amazingness of this universe, and to have the illusion that we can predict and control. And we can on some levels, right? So you mentioned, Brian, awe and wonder, and precisely, right? So we're talking about the alchemy of wonder. And so when we connect with wonder, when we experience wonder, it provides, right, this possibility of being re-enchanted, to reawaken reverence and the sacred. And wonder is that suspension of automatic labels and certainty and knowing and having it all figured out, right? And it invites us into this place of not knowing. The wonder invites us to be in love with mystery. What does it mean? What is the experience of allowing ourselves to fully embody the love of not knowing? The love of being a part of this infinite, vast space. And so often when we experience wonder, there is that awe and that reverence and that marvel of something beautiful. And that's coupled with curiosity. It's coupled with this questioning, this puzzlement. So I wanted to show you this, a very important slide. This is my nephew, Luca, at a whopping 6 months old here. And look at that face. Look at that face of surprise, of awe. And here's one more just because I couldn't resist. Look at that. Human beings in contact with awe and wonder. So when we look at wonder and awe in different cultures and different languages have different words for wonder. I don't know how to pronounce this word, but it means, right, when we look at the meaning, it means to wonder, to marvel, the object of sight. So Plato and Aristotle use this word as the root of philosophy. And so this is recognizing in particular the destabilizing shock to our intellect, right? And to recognize how little we know and to ignite that openness to explore. And then here's the French word for marvel that, again, I will not attempt to articulate because I don't speak French at all. But in French, it means to fill with marvel, things to be admired. And so it has astonished, right? To contemplate. So wonder invites us into this capacity for curiosity, for not knowing, for being with the mystery. Igniting the sense of awe at something that is so vast.
I wonder if anybody speaks French and can give us the sound of that word, speaking of wonder.
Oh, that's a good wonderment. No one speaks French here. Okay.
Merveillement. Merveillement.
Qu'est-ce que c'est? Merveille?
Okay. Lovely. So what I'd like to do now is to do an exercise, and we'll do a little exercise together. And then after we'll go into breakouts and just have an opportunity to share with each other in a smaller setting so that all of our voices can be included. All right. So we're going to examine play with a little bit of living history. So I'd like you to go ahead and put your belongings down if you have pens or papers or tea or whatever it is you have, and just get settled in your seat. Just allow the weight of gravity to drop down. And you can close your eyes, you can have a soft gaze, whatever is best for you in this moment, and you're welcome to shift from one or the other as we proceed. So take a moment to envision yourself as a young child. And as you connect with yourself as a young child, how did you experience wonder? Just checking in, allowing whatever to arise to come forth. How did you experience wonder? When did it show up? Were there specific moments? And what was it like as a young child to be in wonderment? What was the lived experience of being in wonder? What sensations were in your body? What did it smell like? What did it taste like? What did it sound like? Just allow yourself in your mind's eye to reconnect with wonder as a young child. And as you experienced wonder, what world, what reality showed itself to you? What reality came forth? And then you can allow that image to fade, to dissolve. And now connect with yourself as a teenager, when you were in your teens. What was your relationship to wonder then? Again, allow yourself to conjure up a specific moment or moments in time. Perhaps there was a place or a particular person that connected you with wonder. And what was the experience? Did it have a particular fragrance? A flavor? A particular tone or melody? How did you experience wonder as a teen? And then, as a young adult, how did wonder show up in your life? How were you in contact with that great mystery of aliveness? What stories showed up as you contacted wonder? And what was your lived experience of wonder? All its facets. How did it impact you in all of your senses? And now, in this moment, in this stage of your life, wherever you are in your life, what is your experience of wonder? When does wonder come and visit you? And when it does, what happens to the being that you are? What's its texture and the nuance of wonder in this phase of your life? And as you open yourself to wonder, what happens to your world, to your reality? What possibilities are evoked? Allow yourself to get to know wonder. Let yourself be nourished by wonder. And when you're ready, you can take a breath. If you'd like to take a minute to jot down if there's something that you want to capture in some way, you're welcome to take a moment to write down a few words. Just let it be free flowing and easy. And you can come to a close with your writing. And I'd love to hear a few words of what emerged. And then we can, as I mentioned, go into breakouts and we can have a little bit more dialogue. So what emerged as we looked at this history of wonder? What did you discover? Yeah, Stephen.
What I discovered was that the early wonder was around nature, and now present day has come full circle to nature again. Yeah.
What's meaningful about that for you, Stephen?
Hmm. I don't know. Maybe it's breaking out of modernity. Maybe it's slowing down and connecting and learning from nature. Something like that.
Beautiful. Slowing down and the learning from nature. Yeah, what a different orientation to the world than modernity. Right? Whereas modernity is, what are the resources that we can derive from nature? And here we're actually in reciprocity with nature. As when I listen, there's a sense of, oh, nature has something that I can actually learn from. Yeah, what a beautiful reshaping. Yeah.
I'll share. Exploration has been a theme for me even through childhood to now, and that's looking to see what's available, what's new, what's unseen or what hasn't been seen yet. And also I want to throw in that that there is a seeing of the divine, like, oh, this is so wonderful. This is a gift. And trying to apply that to the difficult things too, not just the beauty, but the challenges and the heartbreak and all of that.
Gorgeous. What a beautiful question to sink into. Right? How do we take that learning and cross-pollinate? How do we take that learning and bringing it into the challenges of life or the parts that aren't so sweet or aren't so easily digested? And how does that serve? Yeah, thank you for bringing that. Christine.
I think I'm not sure, but I think you wanted us to be more aware of awe and astonishment and amazement in terms of wonder. But wonder also evokes uncertainty, and I can't figure it out. I'm wondering what's next, this uncertainty and doubt. So I think what I noticed from childhood to my current age, there's this overarching wonder of where I fit in. And as a child, being the baby of the family, it's like, does anybody notice me? Do I have any impact on these bigger people who are doing these more advanced things? I'm wondering what's important about me because I'm the baby. And then in teenage years, of course, you're wondering where you fit in, obviously. And as a young adult, in a bigger world. So it keeps expanding. It started with my family, my, immediate family, wondering where I am in this constellation. And it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And now, facing the last years of my life, of course, it goes out into the cosmos and something much bigger than me. But there's still that wonderment of, Yeah, where am I in all of this?
Beautiful, Christine. Thank you. Yeah, and I think what you mentioned is so important, and we'll look at that in the next upcoming exercise. But I absolutely, right? Wonder is different from awe, and wonder often does have this component that you're bringing up, like in the vastness and the depth, there is something that is perhaps startling or scary, or there's fear or terror, right? Because it has that component as well. Um, so that's what's so beautiful as we begin to explore, right? What is wonder, and how do we get to know it? And how do we lean on one side or another side of it? And what does that do as we really get to know the texture of wonder? So I'm glad that you're bringing that in. And that sense, like, what a gorgeous question. How am I part of this constellation? How am I part of this constellation? And for us to like revel in that question and really be with it. Because my sense is that with our current times, with so much fragmentation, isolation, there so often is this sense of not belonging. Again, not as a theory, but like our bodies, right? And our nervous systems, and like how we breathe, how, right? We have a visceral somatic response when we belong, when we feel safe, and when we don't. And so that connection of wonder and how that plays into that whole conversation, they're just such beautiful places to, again, explore and dive into. So thank you. All right, we will go into breakouts. We can be in, I don't know, groups of maybe 3-ish. How does that sound to the person who's creating our breakout rooms? Does that work?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, great. And if there's 4 or 2, that's fine. So, 3-ish. And then just the invitation is to have a conversation. Given the dialogue that we've been having so far, what's emerging for you? What are you learning? What is relevant for you? And we'll let you know how much time you have in your breakout. Once you go into the breakout, we'll send a little message.
Breakout sessions are not recorded.
All right. So I'm going to invite us now to turn. So we looked a little bit when we were looking at what constitutes the observer in the circles, and we're looking a little bit at history. And now I wanted to move into the circle of body. And so looking at the embodiment of wonder. So we were just speaking about art. So this is one of my charcoal pieces that I did a few years ago. But the embodiment of wonder. So just to give us an opportunity to really explore this realm. So what happens to your body when you're experiencing wonder? And we can either type it in chat or you can just go popcorn style. But when you experience wonder, what do you notice changes in your body?
Energized.
Energized. What else happens?
An increase in endorphins.
And how do you experience that?
Like what he just said, more energy.
More energy. Yeah, great. Anybody else? What happens to your body?
I notice a blending of thought and sensation, and it kind of feels like you want to say opening, but it feels kind of beyond words.
Yeah.
It becomes itself wonder.
Yeah, beautiful. Some kind of opening.
I think for me, lighter and it's just like cosmically.
I'm sorry, you said lighter and I didn't hear the second
part. Cosmical.
Yeah.
I experience like this sensation of like that everything is right. It's something like an embodied feeling that I'm, being here in this body right now is good and right and beautiful, which, isn't always the case.
Gorgeous, dearie. Everything is right. Yeah, and often in wonder, we can open our eyes more, right? It's like we want to take in more. There's often an opening of our eyes. Sometimes our mouth opens, right? We're just in wonder. And also sometimes there's even a leaning back, like taking it in. So we notice that our body, there's a somatic experience of wonder. So what I'd like to do now is just talk us through a little exercise. So as was mentioned before, I am an acupuncturist. I have my master's in acupuncture. And so I'm bringing in a little bit of the tradition of the Chinese medicine, 5 elements, Taoist kind of background, just to inform our practice today, just so you have a sense of lineage. But I wanted to connect us with soma, with body, and wonder. So again, I'm going to invite you to just come into presence with yourself. Put down your belongings and settle into your seat. And again, you can do soft eyes or close your eyes, whatever is best for you. And then just allow yourself to connect your awareness with your breath. Allow yourself to take a conscious breath. And inviting your body to soften. Notice if there's a place of tension or holding or an area, and just give it permission to soften. Allowing yourself to just release any holding. And as you continue to breathe, the invitation is for you to bring your awareness all the way down into your pelvic bowl, the base of your torso. Just allow yourself to take some full, easy breaths all the way into your pelvic bowl. Connecting with your own depth, your own reserve. You can envision your pelvic bowl like the ocean, allowing yourself to drop into that depth. And feel your back body, your posterior aspect of your body. You can even lean back slightly, just connecting with the back of your body. And as you connect to your back body and your pelvic bowl, just allowing yourself to connect with a winter's night, with the ocean, that which is deep and dark, unknown and mysterious. Let yourself anchor in that mystery. Anchoring in that depth. And then when you're ready, you can breathe into your lungs, feeling the front side of your body. Feel our capacity to inhale, to bring in inspiration. To breathe in the universe. To recognize that starry night sky. And as you breathe, connect with the vastness of the sky, the inspiration, allowing your lungs to make contact with that beauty, with that reverence and that awe. And then you can connect with your celestial dome. Sense into your cranium. And as you connect with your celestial dome, allow that lighthouse to expand. Feeling that spaciousness. So that you're in contact with both the spaciousness and the depth. Allowing wonder to course through your whole being. Just noticing as you connect with wonder in your whole body. What do you notice? What do you sense? And as that wonder courses through you, just allowing it to spread throughout your chest, spread through into your diaphragm, into your belly. Allow wonder to continue to spread into your thighs, your shins, ankles, and feet. Allowing it to spread from your chest and your heart into your shoulders, your arms, your hands, fingers. Allowing wonder to rise up into your neck and throat. And letting it move into your face and your celestial dome. And then when you're ready, allow it to amplify past your skin, out into your surroundings. Let it pour into our field and into our collective shared space. Notice what it's like to be in a field of wonder, where each person has their awareness connected to wonder. Tapping into the unknown, into the mystery, and into the beauty, into our capacity to marvel, to admire. To be with. And when you're ready, you can take a breath. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. You can move your ankles and wrists. And stretch in any way that feels good in this moment. Okay. So I'd love to hear from you what happens when you connect with wonder in your body.
I'm thinking about times I've guided people, whether it be through deep breathing, through meditation, through prayer. And people seem very receptive, but I'm also not wanting to leave them there for too long, because part of going into those spaces is also coming back. And so I never want to foster a sense of disconnection. But I really appreciated the meditation that you, guided us through, and it was both of them have been very refreshing.
Thank you, Taylor. Yeah. Wonderful. Anyone else want to share? All right, so we're going to go into breakouts again. And this time, the invitation is for you to speak about soma, body, and wonder, and what that relationship is like for you. You're welcome to share about the specific exercise, or just to what you're learning there, or just to explore body and wonder. So again, we'll be in groups of about 3-ish, and you'll have some time to be in conversation with each other. And I invite you to deeply listen to each other. Again, to come back to that sense of learning from each other.
Breakout sessions are not recorded.
All right, welcome back. And I'd love to just hear a few words from you all, what your experience was, what you're learning.
So we had the pleasure of having Mary Jean in our group, and this is her first integral event. And it's so much fun seeing people brand new in this area and what appeals to them, what becomes the hook. So she was talking about how relaxed and the meditation was and stuff. I went to Pluto because as soon as you raise the crown chakra and then tied it to the cosmos, I was free to soar wherever I want. In that area I use for creativity, even in dream work. So I didn't embody very well because I was all over the cosmos, but I enjoyed myself.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Tom. Wonderful. Good. Anyone else want to speak?
I think I just want to thank Tom for the shout out, but yeah, I think I really embodied it, and I was explaining how like it released a lot of tension for me too, like, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And it's a really good reminder that sometimes we feel things and we kind of forget that we could just sit and just breathe and allow the universe in. And that's all that's needed. We don't have to go and like pay, I don't know, hundreds of dollars or like travel or these, we just sit there and just release. Yeah. I really appreciated it.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're so welcome, Mary. Thank you. Yeah, I teach an applied somatics coaching course. And in that course, one of the things we talk about is that the body is a mystery. It's a mystery. It's a microcosm of the macrocosm. And that when we bring our awareness and attention, we can find and discover so many amazing things. And there is something about exploring our interiority and really going into our inner landscape and getting to know our inner landscape well, and how much beauty arises when we do that, Mary. So yeah, thank you. All right. Anyone else before we move on?
Well, we were talking a lot internally, and then Wayne, because he's coming from China, talked about the whole manifestation of wonder. He was totally into the action, manifestation, and creativity part of it. So it just brought us into that, like, how do you invent things from wonder? So it was like Ben Franklin, and he was kept talking about multi-generations. So he kept bringing us into multi-generational manifestation and creativity, which was a whole nother different thing than the sunset.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely, right? We can check into what is our history, not only our personal history with wonder, but what is our lineage of wonder? What is our culture of wonder? Like all these questions about wonder, we can wonder about wonder. And so it's quite beautiful to be in good dialogue with people that are in a contemplation, a reflective practice. So I showed you a picture of my nephew who was in wonder. And this is another painting I did of a woman that I fell in love with, who was at a church one day. And so I decided to paint her. But just another reflection of wonder, right? Wonder can look so many ways. We talked about the depth of the ocean on winter, right? We talked about that kind of dropping into that kind of mystery and unknown. We talked about the wonder of the night sky and the vastness and the awe. And so there's all these facets of wonder that can come together. And when we look inwardly, when we look outwardly, right, what happens with wonder when we're in contact? How does that alter the observer that we are when we look through the lens of wonder? And so Albert Einstein has this beautiful quote that I've loved and shared for so many years. And he says, the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead. His eyes are closed. So again, just coming home to the sense of how wonder to be wrapped in awe and following awe with that curiosity and that invitation to be in inquiry with the whole universe, to come back to be re-enchanted by being alive and in contact with the beauty of this universe. So I wanted to end with a couple of things. One is I thought I would share a poem that I wrote a while ago. It's called Sometimes. Sometimes I exhale and I let the nakedness of my body slip to the bottom of the lake, as if I were a drop-shot sinker slicing through the thickness of the solid wet, plummeted to the sandy sediment. Sometimes I open my eyes and take in the wet world of the nebulous and the surreal, the out-of-focus precision that only comes from the dark depths. The saline water, pungent and fierce, cradles me in its dewy cocoon. Sometimes I allow the long hair of my youth to explore, daring as I once was. Sometimes I notice the way water softens stones, persistent, constant, and perpetual. And I dream of my daughter's long copper locks, bountiful and beautiful, submerged and suspended deep in the underbelly. Sometimes Jupiter rides his carriage with his entourage of 80 moons and moonlets, lighting my tentacles, which have now sensed the sap green algae of the Cripple Creek turquoise. Sometimes anchored in the wisdom that comes from facing my childhood terrors, I inhale and float to the top, bobbing buoyantly where water meets air, inundated with what is holy and real. So thank you so much for your time. I am delighted that we had this opportunity to examine our observer and to look at what happens when we use wonder for our alchemical process to transmute our habituated lenses. And to, I invite you to continue to explore the sacred beauty and the vast depth of mystery, and to recognize how little any of us know and how much we all know, and to hold that paradox with delight. So the question I leave for you is, how will you cultivate wonder? How will you cultivate wonder? And I wanted to offer before I leave, I have just a free resource for you all. It's called The Hidden Structure of Deep Change. And it's just a course that Alexander, my husband, and I offered. And so it's a recording of that. And so if you'd like to watch that recording, it's a wonderful class. And it also reviews the OR model and some other pieces about transformation and change. Or I put the link right here in chat for you. So if you just click on that, it's a free resource for you if you'd like that.
Thank you, Veronica. Could you put your a way that people could contact you
Yes,
in the
there's
link also?
the newfieldnetwork.com. So that's our website. And then my email address is veronica.love. I'll make it a little larger for in case you can't fully see it here. Oops. So with that, thank you all so much.
Thank you. So we're arriving at the end of our time, and Veronica's going to have to move on shortly. So we thank her a lot for today's presentation and showing us the possibilities of where we can roam, not get stuck in a disenchanted world, and to infuse it with all the things that are available if we're mindful of these choices. So thank you very much. And we're going to move into the informal segment now. But a
Do
couple
you want to
quick,
talk about next month? Oh, okay. You're already, okay.
yeah,
Never mind.
I want to talk about next month. Next month is July 11th, second Saturday of every month, 4 p.m. And we're having also from the Icon Conference, Stephanie Lepp will be coming and speaking on a number of topics. And one of the things she was known for as Icon, she was saying that Integral has a great message, but it has a marketing problem. And, maybe some of you new people realize it's awful hard to understand Integral. The on-ramp's a little bit difficult. So that's next July 11th, 4 p.m. Register early if you can, so that we know what to expect. We can get you links. Remember, you can find out more about San Diego Integral on either the Facebook or our website. And if you feel so inclined, you can make a donation. That helps us defer some of the costs in doing this. And did I miss anything else, Eloy?
Meetup.
Oh yeah, on the meetup.
The main way.
Yeah, the meetup is the main way to register and get involved. And so thank you again, Veronica. And are you staying for a few minutes or do you have to leave right away,
Thank you
Veronica?
all so much. I apologize that I have to go. I would love to chat with you all, but my daughter is in a theater show doing Hadestown tonight. And so I'm actually rushing off to make sure that I am there for her show. So thank you all so very much. It was beautiful to be with you all. And I look forward to seeing you and connecting with you all soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Veronica. Say hi to Alexander. So by way of a quick summary, this idea of hyper individualism that she started and still feeling the collective need, yearning for control and prediction, and that in modernity, we end up living in this fragmented world that is disenchanted because it is fragmented and it loses the sacred. I like how all that hung together, the way she framed today's talk in terms of being aware of, really setting of how we show up in the universe, how we show up in the world, being mindful of the choices we have. And when we don't like something, we tend to do more of the same. And it ends up in a very limited range of what we do. And ultimately, I liked her definition of alchemy is the capacity for transmutation, to really take something and change it into something that could result in growth and new paths, even though none of us get out of this without exploring some dark nights and having that talk to us also. So that was kind of my frame of it, even though the observer, she really worked on it. She had a unique definition, I thought, of the observer or the witness, other people call it. But what was your reactions?
I had said in the breakout that it was it's a good reminder of a level of depth and perception that's always available to us, even if we're not available to it. So it felt good to be reminded of that one, and to re-experience it in different ways. Yeah, it seems like that could easily be a form of practice by Molly.
Kabir, you're unmuted.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the substances that comes up for me, and this is the the kind of objects of certainty that we use to investigate wonder. The idea that wonder is a thing, the idea that I'm investigating it, the idea that there's a distance between wonder and the effects of wonder, and noticing the wonder of, as you just said, Eloy, like the choice that we make to hang on to those structures of constancy or certainty or karmic patterns or evolutionary patterns of creativity that reify themselves in kind of fractal natures. And that when we are all tangled up in that taffy, that life is that kind of experience of viscera, and at the same time, when we, to maybe use an overused word, kind of awaken to that habit that and drop those substantive constructs of meaning and see through them in a sense, that nonetheless the world appears and we appear in it, and like it just feels like this ocean of amazement that draws us right back into being amazed. And I use that as like the noun of amaze, like all of a sudden I'm a thing again. All of a sudden I'm no longer a wonder, I'm amazed. And just the playfulness of all of that. And I'm like, how creative is all of that and how beautiful.
Well, at least you know it's a thingy.
Yeah, and Dan Brown, Dr. Dan Brown, talked about, the in Buddhism, the two emptinesses. Either it's empty, it's nothing, it's empty all the way down, or there's some kind of love at the bottom of this that is substantive, and then rather than picking and choosing, that those are more kind of polarity guardrails on the practice of this Buddhahood of showing up for one another in compassion and joyfulness and celebration and care.
Right. But I think the point is staying away from the thing, reifying it, is to keep the expanse open of the possibilities. So when we go away from thingy, and I know I'm doing thingy, uh, but it's still worthwhile to articulate the map. The possibilities just expand. We're not closing, because to identify is to close off other possibilities. Not to identify, at least for me, is chaos.
I'm going to dig up a quote that you just triggered here.
There's something about the French language that has more embodiment in it. I love that word, merveillement, if I'm saying it right. Does anyone speak fluent French? No. So I'm probably fairly close.
I don't speak fluent French, but I took a couple of courses.
Can you say that?
The double L is a Y sound.
Oh, merveillement. Merveillement?
It's A because of the accent. A merveillement. A merveillement.
Oh, I thought the E was going to be silent.
The Easy first for you to say, Brian.
Well, I've never seen a French word with that many syllables. That's like a mouthful, even for a French person, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Tom, your comment brought to mind this quote. I can't attribute it to anyone in particular. I think it's from Chinese source. To advance results in ignoring truth. To retreat results in contradicting the lineage. Neither to advance nor to retreat is being a breathing corpse.
Comes across as a colon almost.
I don't know, Wayne, if you read the Chinese or if that is even Chinese, it's.
Can you read that, Wayne? We lost it.
Read what? Read what?
Read in the chat. Kabir put something in the chat.
It's too difficult. I am just a normal normal citizen. I just want to contribute my ideas. I am not that sophisticated. It's very, very high level, I think. I just contribute my
it's so pictorial.
My well-meaning. It's very to advance result in ignoring truth. To retreat results in contracting the lineage. I think those words are hard to deceive. Hard to deceive. I think my contribution is more practical.
So it's just an awareness. It's much more expansive than we think.
Just so you all know, this is a very informal part. Just unmute and talk whenever you're ready, or even just talk even if you're not ready.
Or stay muted and talk.
Well, I just was hoping that we could get a copy of that poem that she read at the end. That was amazing. I guess it'll be on the recording, but yeah, it was really, really beautiful poetry that she wrote.
It was her own as well.
Yes, I know.
I wonder if it's on our website.
It
or
might be.
their website.
Wayne, is this your first San Diego Integral event?
Second time. Last time is last year, same month.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I watch YouTube's 5 to 6 hours daily, and take meetup events 3 times a month.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes, yes.
And where are you located, Wayne?
Shenzhen, a city near Hong Kong.
Holy shit.
The one of the 3 mega cities of China.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Welcome aboard. What time of day is it there?
Yes, it's 9:13 a.m.
Yeah, it's
9:13
tomorrow
a.m.
already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very suitable for refreshing after getting up.
Yeah, we had a woman here earlier, Jessie, that's from Australia, so she's in that more or less the same time zone.
I do want to say I had to drop off, but it was really, really great to have this. I would definitely be returning next month.
Great.
Or probably the months after that. I think it's always great to just build a community like this. And I think it's just important to be able to connect to wonder because you have a better sense of self. I feel like you can easily lose yourself with everything that's happening in society, technology, AI, things like that. I think this is just so important to carry on and keep. Like if my nieces and my nephews, I teach them about this all the time because I don't want them to lose this. So I think it's a way for me to keep this knowledge and pass it on as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So I recommended Wayne to Mary to read about spiral dynamics. Have you discovered that already, Wayne, on YouTube? Spiral
Yes, I have
dynamics?
watched your website or your channels.
Okay.
Yes,
So you're a
very
little more,
appreciated.
yeah, you're welcome.
Would you say encapsulated nicely in Second Sapiens by Said Dalabani?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mary, good to meet you.
All right, you too. Bye, everyone.
Take care, Mary.
Bye.
Any other reflections?
Just from a distance to say to you and Christine, congratulations on really wonderful icons from everything I've heard. And I was privy to be kind of in the peanut gallery on the sidebar for the journey, and it looked really wonderful and rich.
Were you online, Kabir?
I wasn't online. I was on Elisa's cell phone.
Wow.
She was sending me selfies with you and others and give me updates about what was going on. And I was a little occupied that week, but it really looked wonderful.
Yeah, we were really surprised how much it came across because the theme was the intersubjectivity. And to really create that state experience of the conference, you never know it's going to work till you get there, but it felt like it all aligned and it worked pretty strongly. Did you feel the same thing online, Marjorie?
Yes, I was just going to say that it was remarkable that I've never attended any of those conferences in person. Everything I've done has always been online. But it
Okay.
is amazing how deeply you can go online only, and what I seem to observe, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, but this particular conference, it seemed like the participants there, towards the end especially, were really getting into the emotional connection and speaking about it. And even, there were tears and it was deeply felt. And I know some of the integral conferences that I have witnessed online in the past kind of stayed up in the head a lot more, And
Yeah,
this time I noticed it seemed to be a little bit more deeply embodied, and it came across that way online as well.
that's wonderful to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But, I've been describing it as we're on the threshold of integral maturing into itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just the individual embodiment, it's the collective
Mm-hmm.
showing up embodied and being able to share. And of
Yeah.
course, it took what, 25 years of growing up, cleaning up, opening up, waking up so that we could show up.
Yeah.
But so the team is feeling really good about feeling like, we're on the verge of really dialing something up at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And we're already brainstorming the next conference and whatnot because it seemed to appeal to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And even the speakers
I'm
were able.
sensing, yeah. I was just going to ask you or anyone else, what I seem to be noticing is that at integral levels, it seems that the so-called allergy to green is finally being healed, and that what's needed a lot now is a bringing in a healthy green, because I think you can't get to integral except through healthy green.
Right.
So I really kind of was wondering if anybody else is noticing that.
What are you thinking of, Marjorie?
Well, just that being able to show outwardly the emotions that were experienced at the conference there towards the end, that would not have happened, I don't think, a few years ago at some of those integral conferences. It would have been a much more intellectual kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. Right. That's the change.
Mm.
Icon doesn't get all credit for this. I feel like Bensei has been moving in that direction for quite a while. And he certainly, I took notes from that.
Hmm.
Um, but I would want to give him credit for, moving the dial in that direction. The Americans tended to be very intellectual and in their head. I remember Kabir about 22 years ago saying to me, Tom, I'm having a hard time getting out of your head.
I was just about to say, Tom, I seem to recall you making some mumblings while you're giving some credit to Bensei, which I think is well earned and well deserved. But I seem to recall you headed firmly in this direction about 12.5 years ago or so.
Yeah, I was, but 20 years ago, I was in my head. But that's the evolution we all undergo. When you realize it, the map has a real world correlate in your experience. So it's been fun doing it. So I really think we're going to be publishing a lot of the comments people are having because it's amazing what they're saying.
Hmm.
And then push this curve like crazy. And it's fun because Bensei and I and some other entities are in dialogue about we're trying to form a global integral alliance and try to tap the big themes about what's the best way to disperse this stuff and getting away from the academic. It has to be. So that's why I like Stephanie Lepp. Integral has a marketing problem. And there's so many people with products out there of shaky value. Integral really has a product, but it's just realizing how to apply it.
Yeah, I heard it was a
Yeah.
UFO sex cult.
Say again.
So I heard it was a UFO sex cult.
Yeah. Raymond's unbelievable. He plays with you on so many levels. Did you hear that one, Eli? Raymond's?
Yeah. Oh, I did. Yeah, it was hilarious.
Yeah. Did you hear the not so subtle plug for metamodernism?
Mm-hmm.
So,
By the way, this little background I put up here was inspired by Veronica's meditation.
Oh,
The background.
beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
did you develop it, Eloy, or did it, Veronica?
AI.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Based on the audio transcript of her meditation?
no, based on the guidance of being near the dark ocean at night
Yeah.
and so I was feeling more into the physicality of all of that and the cold and how the ocean gets more mysterious and more ominous at night, at least for me. And then the juxtaposition of the ocean and then the beautiful stars in the sky. And
I watched you bring up the image. I thought it was a nice gesture.
Huh. But anyways.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me a little bit of like the picture that you see of the tree of life, where the branches are going up, but they're also going as down as deep as they go up. So it's kind of like that simultaneously going up and out and down and in, almost like the toroidal experience, like an image of going out and it's kind of that movement. Yeah. And also she mentioned in her speaking towards the end there about going down and deeping down into the ocean and getting embedded in the sediment or something. And so obviously she could breathe underwater, which we learned how to do in the womb. You know, we were breathing underwater in the womb. So the human does have the capacity, lungs do have the capacity to breathe. You know, so it just spoke a lot of the paradoxes and the yeah, it was beautiful.
Paradox because we're stuck in our map.
Well, paradox because she started out in her meeting about taking us into the childhood wonder and awe, and then going up into an adult, and especially as an older aging adult. You know, I think I've seen a picture where you see a picture of a woman, an elderly woman standing there looking at the mirror. What she sees in the reflection in the mirror as herself as a very young child.
Yeah.
So that mirroring aspect, you know, of life, that it's all the same innocence and wonder. It doesn't change. The body changes, but the wonder and awe is that same constant thing that you could count on. You know.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
For further information, including upcoming events, resources, links to our Facebook and Meetup pages, and our fabulous donate button, please visit our website at sandiegointegral.org. Donations are greatly appreciated and help us to continue to provide information and connection within the Integral community.